All right, chapter 8. This one's going to get hairy. So it's a bit long. Hang with me. This is going to be good. Church services. It goes without saying that there really isn't a blueprint for a standard church service in the scriptures. And if history has taught us anything, it's that the church can look like a lot of different things. From Gregorian chants in stone cathedrals to Hillsong on an LED-lit stage, change and variance seem to be the rule, not the exception. It can be a few families in a house, or a whole community in a chapel, a speaker and a crowd in a stadium, or an evangelist in a circus tent. Church simply happens when Christians get together on Sundays. And it is for this reason many claim the slogan, "Don't go to church, be the church," which is nice and catchy for a t-shirt or a bulletin handout, but in reality, the functions of a church are a lot more complicated than simply being in the same building with a few other Christians. Churches are called to take care of the poor. Deuteronomy 5:11, Matthew 19:21, Matthew 25:36, Galatians 2:10, Acts 2:45, and James 1:27. They are called to love each other. Mark 12:31, John 13:35. Called to share possessions. Acts 2:45, Acts 4:34-35. The church is to be where those in prison are visited from. Hebrews 13:3, Matthew 25:36, and from where the gospel and the scriptures are preached. Matthew 28:19-20, Romans 10:14-15, Colossians 3:16, 2 Timothy 2:2, and 2 Timothy 2:24, 2 Timothy 4:2. And it is a place for prayer and praise. Acts 2:42, Colossians 3:16, and 1 Timothy 2:8. A place for the sacraments of the communion and baptism. Matthew 26:26-28, Luke 22:19-20, Acts 2:42, 1 Corinthians 1:23-26. A place where the hungry are fed and where meals are shared. Matthew 25:36 and Acts 2:42. And most of all, it is a place where Christians can be Christians. Now, what it's not is a place where hymnals need to be. It's not a place where video projectors need to be, or back in the late 90s, where clunky overhead projectors need to be. It's not a place where pews need to be, theater seats, where stages need to be. Pulpits aren't needed either. Neither are prayer rooms, sanctuaries, choir lofts, large homes for gathering lots of people for your home, in your home church, youth rooms, gyms, sound booths, offices, janitor's closets, and perfectly manicured front lawns out front of parking lots. A lot of all optional from a biblical standpoint. Wasn't it? What isn't optional is that Christians and non-Christians being together. So why do we place any value comparatively on a list without Bible verses when we consider how to do church? Because these are the things that are closest to our culture. They are the colloquial aspects of a vast and diverse body of Christ. Urban Canadian churches need a place to congregate that is warm in the winter. Rural African churches need a place that is out of the sun and away from wild animals. Churches in Florida need to be able to withstand a semi-regular hurricane prone to the area, and churches of India and China need more room. All the churches need specific things to their congregations, but none of those needs are biblical. Essential to church growth and stability, sure, but not biblically mandated. So let's look at that list again and ask, what can the internet do? Can the internet take care of the poor? Any number of social networks can be constructed to accomplish this, from a Facebook group to the needs of members and contacts to the homeless and disadvantaged persons, to the already present email lists in church that help with the making of meals and household items, new babies, and injured people in the church. What about showing our love for one another? Again, the affirmation list of options gives us plenty of room online to do this. It takes more time to find a number and call someone on your phone than it does to search for them on Facebook and let them know you're praying for them. Can it help us share our possessions? Kijiji, Craigslist, and any number of municipality or city swap and buy groups on Facebook. Heck, you could throw Amazon's used services here too, and thrift stores of the church basement are a thing of the past with Amazon Prime's free shipping. How about allowing us to visit those in prison? I want to say online video conferencing here, but I know that on the prison side this would be a logistical challenge. But imagine it, a set of screens wired for two-way communication with staff at a church for the small slot of free time that they would have behind bars. A chance to talk with someone who isn't a warden or a guard official, but a church member, a person who cares for them because of the gospel in their heart and nothing else. Can the internet be a place where the gospel and scriptures are preached from? Heck yes. Though there might not be room in the chapter for the number of the platforms where the gospel presentation can be made. Between text and video, the online world has made it possible to put stories out there with little or no restraint aside from keyboards. Can it be a place for prayer and praise? Because of anything worth posting of the internet, any medium is often allowed commenting on the online community it's posted in. This conversation allows for praise when appropriate. Even when not, if someone posts a video of a fireman saving someone, a Christian can praise this as an answer to prayer. Whenever their prayer is answered online, whether spoken or not, noting that they have been answered matters. And while I believe prayer online is in a comment section or a post means the same as one uttered in the bed beside a bed. The same as one uttered beside a bed. The praise of both prayers and God's grace in the world we live in has no excuse not to be. If God can make rocks cry out, Luke 19:40, then you can tweet about it or at least leave comments in the section below. Can it be a place where the sacraments of communion and baptism are celebrated? No. Yes? Maybe. The biggest dig on how the internet changes our culture is that you can't actually do things on the web. You can't cook a pork chop on the web. You can't really get custom-made goods, and you can't boil an egg or touch a tactile sculpture. It is an experience primarily of the mind, and until that changes, you will never be baptized online. You will never take the Lord's Supper online, but that is not what's done in church, is it? Baptism is celebrated at church, but could be done in a hot tub or a pool or a roadside stream, referenced in guess what? The Bible. And they were going along the road, and they came to some water, and the eunuch said, "See here, there is water. What prevents me from being baptized?" Our sacraments aren't tied to a temple where our sacrifice of praise needs to be slaughtered on a brazen altar. Jesus spoke of this with the woman at the well, that God's true worshipers do it in spirit and truth. But the hour is coming, and now here, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for the Father is seeking such people to worship him. Both of these can be hosted via online video. Both can be shared with the same means. A Twitter account can be 20,000 followers, declares a huge following that Jesus is Lord when they get baptized, and posts the video. Now, I don't mean to trivialize this, but a GoPro camera is waterproof, and I'm pretty sure no one has ever live streamed their own baptism. Imagine the transparency of the act, and a live streamed Lord's Supper can invite any number of people who can find a video into an introspection of their eternal life. Also, who doesn't have white bread and juice box at home? Are you really telling me something is more holy about our bread cubes and plastic cups? Can it be a place where the hungry are fed and where meals are shared? Reddit.com/r/random acts of pizza, which is tragically no longer a subreddit. Sorry to break the things, but it's tragic. That was an awesome subreddit. Google it, I dare you, and tell me to come up with a great system for a weekend. A hungry person could email you from the public library and get a 4-course meal a la church potluck delivered by a member of your church. Most of all, is it a place where Christians can be Christian? Yes. Church has always followed the modern tech of the day, from Gutenberg's printing press to Hillsong's latest worship and light show experience. It follows tech because it doesn't need tech to be a church. The aforementioned Bible verses make that clear. But when it comes to the web, none of the culture-specific items on our list can translate into the web for long. They get passed by the online world's propensity for progress. We used to save files on 1.44 megabyte floppy disks that could barely hold a decent-sized ebook, let alone a collection of them, and now we have minuscule thumb drives capable of holding a terabyte of information. That's 728,177,000 times more space than before. I remember saving files to a floppy disk back in college in 2002 when flash drives had just came out, and now I seem to fill up every thumb drive I can find. Technology progresses. When Martin Luther and Johannes Gutenberg started printing Bibles, they were displacing a process that took thousands of hours in handwriting Bibles, rolling over the nearly sacred role of the scribe in society, and placed new common tongue in the Bible's hands, at least at the time, to be able to comment and discuss the scriptures. Peasants. Bibles were a thing that only trained and official members of the clergy had, until they were made available to everyone via new tech. The congregations Luther served used to have to listen to another person translate Latin scriptures for them, and they then read for themselves in German what the scriptures really said. We are in a moment in history like that now, a time where there is exponentially more and rawer information available every year because of the internet. And the church simply uses this opportunity like an outdated hymnal. We're going to miss the chance. If the church does that, we're going to miss the chance to see the church evangelically explode. There are people who have never entered a church in their life, graduating from college, who could never see what happens at a church, who could see exactly what happens in your church through a Facebook feed, but only if it's shared with them. We need to start sharing and engaging Christians on the web instead of just merely existing on the web because that's what you do online. The world does not need another church website that only exists for the church featured on it. It needs churches willing to use the web and bring people to Jesus. There's a lot of stuff wrong with that chapter. The first one is, can it be a place where the sacraments of communion and baptism are celebrated? No, it can't. It can be a place where you view baptisms and communion meals, but you can't participate. My views when I wrote this book viewed the internet in a very pagan way that I talk about in other videos. It viewed it as this is a magic portal, that it's a portal from where you are into my office where I'm recording this video. And that's not what it is. You're viewing a thing. You're viewing electrons held within resistors on a server somewhere where YouTube's keeping it once I upload this video. It's a thing. It's not magic, okay? There's a screen here. See how I'm tapping this? There's a screen here. It doesn't work that way. So you can't have communion, which is a communal meal. Jesus couldn't have had the Last Supper where he shared the cup with all of his disciples if he couldn't literally share the cup. And that's what we do at communion. We share a meal together. And it's not a meal at the same time, because that's what was happening in Passover while he was doing the Last Supper. He shared a meal with his disciples to institute that, but Passover was happening. And the new covenant is sharing of that meal, not a meal at the same time. Same thing with baptism. You can't get baptized in the presence of your church, which I think is the best way to think about this, that there are exceptions to baptism, but you're supposed to get baptized into the church, so that when you're declared as a member of the church, that baptism should follow those. There should all be one big happy family of ideas. And that doesn't happen when you're separated from it. This has changed my personal views on like baptism at camps. You know, it really does take away from the fact that, you know, it's supposed to be a faith community adding members, not just, you know, something an individual Christian's checking off, getting a badge like they're in the Boy Scouts. Past that, you know, a lot of the other things really just talk about Christians acting like Christians online, which is where a lot of the online church, I think, really purposely confuses the terms. That there is church, which is Sunday worship, or even just weekend worship. It is your Sabbath day worship where you gather together with your faith community and you worship God and you're discipled by the word and you share the sacraments when they're going to happen, when baptisms are present and when you know, communion is shared, that you share that with your faith community. And then there is the church global, which is Christians acting like Christians. And that when you confuse that, when you confuse what Christians can do as the church global with what they're supposed to do as the church local, that what that does, it kind of inverts this and it allows you to say that, you know, I'm partaking in communion when really it's just you alone in your house drinking a juice box. You're not communing with anyone. It defeats the purpose of the action. It says that I can be a body part separate from my gathered body in church all the way over here because I have grape juice and bread. And that's wrong. And that was something I didn't see because I thought the internet was magic, and it's not magic. It's very technological. It just looks magic. So that is one of the biggest chapters that's going to get rewrote. It's one of the longer videos that we've had to do for this thing. And so I just want to kind of leave it at that and let you guys know that I was really off on that stuff, and the pandemic really showed it. So hope you guys like it. Hope you guys get to read the updates once I do it. Take care.